Good morning, this blessed Tuesday, April 7th. We rise today not by accident, not by mere habit, but by grace. Grace that has carried us through nights we thought would never end and mornings we did not feel strong enough to meet. And yet here we are, breathing, becoming, beginning again. Today we gather our thoughts, not in fear of what lies ahead, but in faith. Faith that the path before us is not ours to force, but ours to walk with trust. For when we allow God to go before us, we surrender the illusion of control and step into the promise of divine direction. Let this morning be more than routine. Let it be a quiet declaration that we will not chase doors not meant for us, nor will we mourn those that close. Instead, we will stand in the stillness of knowing that the right doors, those aligned with purpose, peace, and truth, will open in their appointed time. So today we pray not just for opportunity, but for clarity, not just for success, but for alignment, not just for movement, but for meaning. And as we move into this week, may we walk gently, boldly, and faithfully, knowing that what is meant for us cannot miss us, and what misses us was never meant to hold us. This morning does not arrive empty-handed. It comes bearing quiet mercies, wrapped in the soft hush of dawn, carried on the steady rhythm of breath you did not have to earn. There is a grace in waking, a sacred permission written into your very being that says, begin again. Not because yesterday was perfect, not because you tied every loose end or spoke every right word, but because grace does not wait for perfection. It meets you in your humanity. And oh, how human we are. We are the keepers of yesterday's burdens, the carriers of silent worries, the witnesses to our own missteps. We know what it is to fall short, to miss the mark, to wish for a moment return so we might reshape it with wiser hands. But this morning does not ask you to undo yesterday. It does not demand that you arrive flawless or finished. Instead, it offers you something far more generous. It offers you a new beginning, a beginning that is not rushed or loud, but steady and sure. You see, grace does not shout. It does not force its way into your life with clamor and confusion. It whispers. It lingers. It waits patiently at the threshold of your awareness, hoping you will notice it in the ordinary miracle of opening your eyes, in the quiet strength of rising from your bed, in the simple truth that you are still here. Still here. Those two words hold more power than we often dare to acknowledge. Still here means you have survived every trial that sought to undo you. Still here means that every tear you have shed has not washed you away. Still here means that life, in all its unpredictable turning, has not finished with you yet. And because you are still here, you are still becoming. There is grace in that becoming. Grace in the slow unfolding of who you are meant to be. Not who the world has told you to be, not who fear has convinced you are, but who you are in the quiet spaces where truth lives. Unpolished, unafraid, and deeply known, a new morning invites you back to that truth. It says, come as you are, but do not remain as you were. And that invitation is not a burden, it is a blessing. For too long we have mistaken new beginnings as something we must earn, something reserved for those who have proven themselves worthy. But grace does not operate on merit. It does not keep score or hold grudges. It does not measure your past against your potential. Grace simply gives. It gives freely, abundantly, and without condition. And what it gives today is another chance. Another chance to speak kindly when bitterness tempts your tongue. Another chance to listen deeply when impatience rises in your chest. Another chance to forgive. Others, yes, but also yourself. For there is no heavier chain than the one we forge from our own regrets. No deeper wound than the one we refuse to heal within. Grace loosens those chains. It reminds you that you are not defined by your lowest moment, nor confined to the mistakes that haunt your memory. You are larger than your past, wider than your fears, deeper than your doubts, and this morning, with all its quiet promise, is your opportunity to live into that truth. But make no mistake, New beginnings are not always easy. They require courage, the courage to release what is familiar even when it no longer serves you. The courage to step forward without guarantees, trusting that the ground will meet your feet as you walk. The courage to believe that something better is possible even when you cannot yet see its shape. And yet within that courage there is grace, because you are not asked to walk alone. There is a presence that goes before you, preparing the way, softening the path, opening doors you cannot yet perceive. You may not always feel it, you may not always understand it, but it is there, steady, faithful, and unshaken by the storms that shake you. So when you rise this morning, rise with intention, not the kind that demands perfection, but the kind that honors progress. Not the kind that chases approval, but the kind that nurtures authenticity. Rise knowing that each small step you take is part of a larger journey, one that is unfolding exactly as it must. Do not despise the small beginnings. There is grace in them too. Grace in choosing patience over frustration. Grace in choosing hope over despair. Grace in choosing to try again even when yesterday's failure still echoes in your mind. These are not insignificant acts. They are sacred movements of the soul, quiet declarations that you are willing to grow. And growth, my dear, is never wasted. It may be slow, it may be uneven, it may feel at times like you are circling the same ground, learning the same lessons in slightly different forms. But every step, every stumble, every moment of reflection is shaping you, refining you into someone stronger, wiser, more compassionate. Grace does not rush that process. It honors it. It understands that transformation is not a single moment, but a lifelong unfolding. And this morning is one more page in that unfolding, one more chance to write a story that reflects not just where you have been, but where you are going. So let go of the need to have it all figured out. Let go of the pressure to be everything at once. Let go of the fear that whispers you are behind, that you have missed your moment, that it is too late to begin again. It is not too late. As long as you are breathing, there is time. As long as your heart still beats with quiet determination, there is possibility. As long as you can lift your eyes to meet the day, there is hope. And hope, when held gently and faithfully, becomes the seed of something extraordinary. This morning, plant that seed. Water it with gratitude for the life you have, for the lessons you have learned, for the strength you did not know you possessed until you needed it most. Tend to it with care, with patience, with kindness, with a willingness to grow even when growth feels uncomfortable. And trust, oh trust, that grace will do its work. It will meet you in your efforts, multiply your intentions, and guide your steps in ways you cannot yet imagine. It will open doors when the time is right, close them when they are not, and lead you toward a future that aligns not just with your desires, but with your deepest purpose. But for now, all you are asked to do is begin. Begin with a single breath, taken fully and freely. Begin with a single thought, chosen carefully and kindly. Begin with a single step, taken boldly and faithfully. That is enough. You do not need to carry the whole week at once. You do not need to solve every problem before it arrives. You do not need to prove your worth or justify your existence. You are already worthy. You are already enough. And this morning, this quiet, grace-filled morning, is your reminder. So stand in it. Stand in the light of a new beginning, even if your knees tremble. Stand in the promise of grace, even if your faith feels fragile. Stand knowing that you are held, guided, and loved in ways that go beyond your understanding. And as you move forward into this day, carry this truth with you. You are not starting over. You are starting anew, with wisdom gained, with strength earned, with grace freely given. And that makes all the difference. There is a quiet battle that lives within us, one that does not announce itself with clashing swords or thunderous noise, but whispers instead, soft, persistent, and often convincing. It is the battle between faith and fear. And though they cannot occupy the same space in fullness, they often take turns sitting at the center of our thoughts. shaping the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves, and the way we step into each new day. Fear is an old companion. It knows your name. It remembers your past. It speaks in a voice that sounds strangely like your own, rehearsing every doubt you have ever entertained, replaying every moment you have stumbled, magnifying every uncertainty until it feels larger than life itself. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it is subtle, slipping into your mind disguised as caution, dressed up as wisdom, pretending to protect you while quietly holding you back. It says, what if you fail? It says, what if you are not enough? It says, what if this path leads nowhere? And if you listen long enough, if you let its words settle deep into your spirit, you may find yourself standing still, not because there is nowhere to go, but because fear has convinced you it is safer not to move at all. But faith is a different voice entirely. Faith does not always answer every question fear raises. It does not lay out a perfect map or guarantee an easy journey. Instead, it offers something both simpler and more profound. Trust. Trust that even when the path is unclear, it is not absent. Trust that even when you cannot see what lies ahead, you are not walking into emptiness. Trust that there is a presence greater than your uncertainty, guiding you, holding you, and preparing the way before you. Faith does not deny the existence of fear. It simply refuses to let fear have the final word. And that perhaps is where many of us lose our footing. We believe that to have faith we must first eliminate fear, that we must become fearless before we can move forward. But the truth is, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move in spite of it. It is the quiet determination that rises within you and says, I am afraid, but I will go anyway. It is the steady breath you take before stepping into the unknown. It is the willingness to trust that what awaits you is greater than what threatens you. Faith and fear may both knock at your door, but you must decide which one you will invite in, which one you will allow to sit at your table, which one you will let shape your choices. Because make no mistake, what you choose to believe will determine how you live. If you choose fear, you will shrink your world to fit its limitations. You will hesitate where you could have advanced, doubt where you could have trusted, retreat where you could have risen. Fear will have you measuring your life by what might go wrong, rather than by what could go right. But if you choose faith, you will begin to see differently. You will understand that uncertainty is not your enemy, but your invitation. An invitation to grow, to stretch, to become more than you have been. You will begin to recognize that every great step forward in your life has required some measure of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the journey, trust in the unseen hand that guides you. Faith allows you to release the need for control. And for many of us, that is no small surrender. We have been taught to plan, to calculate, to anticipate every possible outcome. We want assurances, guarantees, certainty. We want to know that our efforts will be rewarded, that our risks will pay off, that our hearts will not be broken in the process. But life does not offer such guarantees, and faith does not demand them. Instead, faith asks you to believe that even when things do not unfold as you expected, they are still unfolding as they should. That even in disappointment there is direction. Even in delay there is purpose. Even in loss, there is a lesson waiting to be uncovered. This does not mean that faith makes everything easy. There will still be moments when fear rises up uninvited and unwelcome. Moments when the weight of uncertainty presses heavily upon your chest. When the future feels more like a question than a promise. In those moments, faith may feel fragile, like a flickering flame threatened by the winds of doubt. But even a flicker of faith is powerful. It is enough to light your next step. It is enough to remind you that darkness, no matter how deep, cannot extinguish the light entirely. It is enough to keep you moving one step at a time, even when the whole path is not yet visible. And sometimes, one step is all you need, for it is in taking that step despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, that you begin to build a deeper trust within yourself. You begin to see that you are capable of more than you imagined, that you are stronger than your doubts suggested, that you can endure, adapt, and rise. Faith grows in movement. It is strengthened not by standing still and waiting for certainty, but by walking forward and discovering that you are held, even when you did not know how you would be. Each step you take in faith becomes a testament, a living reminder that fear did not win, that doubt did not define you, that you chose to believe in something greater, and what you believe in shapes who you become. If you believe that you are guided, you will walk with greater confidence. If you believe that your life has purpose, you will pursue it with greater intention. If you believe that you are supported by a power beyond your own understanding, you will find strength in moments when your own strength feels insufficient. Faith does not promise that you will never fall, but it assures you that you will not fall alone. It does not promise that every door will open, but it reminds you that the doors meant for you cannot be closed by what is not aligned with your path. It does not promise a life free from struggle, but it offers peace within the struggle, a steady, grounding presence that whispers, you are not abandoned, you are not forgotten, you are not alone. And sometimes that whisper is all you need to keep going. So when fear comes, and it will, do not be surprised by its presence. Do not be ashamed of its voice. Acknowledge it if you must. Listen if you need to understand what it is trying to protect you from. But do not let it lead you. Let faith take the lead. Let faith be the voice you follow, even when it speaks softly. Let it guide your steps, even when the path is unclear. Let it anchor your heart, even when the storms of uncertainty begin to rise. Because fear will always show you the worst that could happen. But faith will remind you of the best that is still possible. And somewhere between those two voices lies your choice. Your choice to rise instead of retreat. Your choice to trust instead of doubt. Your choice to move forward, even when you cannot see the end of the road. This morning, as you stand at the threshold of a new day, you are given that choice once again. You can carry yesterday's fears into today, allowing them to shape your expectations, limit your vision, and hold you back from what could be. Or you can set them down gently, intentionally, and choose to walk in faith, not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who does. And that trust, quiet, steady, unwavering, is more powerful than fear will ever be. There is a weight we carry, often without realizing how heavy it has become. It rests not on our shoulders alone, but deep within the chambers of our minds and hearts. It is the weight of trying to control everything, every outcome, every moment, every turn of the road ahead. We hold tightly to plans, to expectations, to the fragile illusion that if we can just manage things well enough, life will unfold exactly as we desire. But life, as we have come to know, does not bend so easily to our will. And still we try. We try to predict what cannot be predicted. We try to secure what was never ours to keep. We try to force open doors that resist us and hold closed the ones that are meant to release us. We tighten our grip, believing that control is strength, that certainty is safety, that if we just hold on long enough, hard enough, we will arrive unshaken. But control, when held too tightly, becomes its own kind of cage. It confines us to a narrow vision, one shaped not by possibility but by fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. And so we build careful plans, construct detailed expectations, and measure our days by how closely they match what we imagine. When they do not, and often they do not, we feel the sting of disappointment, the quiet ache of things not going as they should. But perhaps the question is not why things did not go as planned. Perhaps the question is why we believed we were meant to control the plan at all. There is a deeper truth waiting beneath our need for control, a truth both humbling and freeing. It is the understanding that we are not the architects of every outcome, nor the authors of every chapter in our story. We are participants, yes. We are decision makers, yes. But we are not the sole orchestrators of all that unfolds. And there is grace in that realization. Grace in knowing that you do not have to carry the entire weight of your life on your own. Grace in understanding that there is a wisdom beyond your own, a guiding presence that sees what you cannot see, that knows what you cannot know, that prepares paths you have not yet imagined. But surrender, true surrender, does not come easily. It asks something of us that feels unnatural in a world that celebrates control, that praises independence, that equates letting go with weakness. Surrender asks us to release our grip, to loosen our hold on outcomes, to trust without guarantees. And that kind of trust can feel like standing at the edge of something vast and uncertain, unsure if the ground beneath you will hold. But surrender is not falling into nothingness. It is falling into trust. It is the quiet, courageous decision to say, I will do my part, but I will not try to control what is beyond me. It is the willingness to show up, to act, to give your best, and then to release the outcome into hands greater than your own. This does not mean passivity. It does not mean you stop caring, stop planning, or stop working toward your goals. No. Surrender is not the absence of effort. It is the absence of anxiety about what you cannot control. It is the understanding that your responsibility lies in your actions, not in the result. You plant the seed, you water it, you tend to it with care, but you do not command it to grow. You trust that growth will come in its own time, in its own way. And that trust, though it may feel fragile at first, becomes a source of deep and abiding peace. For when you surrender control, you release yourself from the constant tension of trying to manage the unmanageable. You free your mind from the endless cycle of what if and if only. You create space within yourself, a space where calm can settle, where clarity can emerge, where faith can take root. Surrender allows you to breathe again, to move through your days with a sense of ease, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer fighting against what is. You begin to flow with life rather than resist it. You begin to trust that even the unexpected, even the unwanted, may carry within it a purpose you cannot yet see. And that trust changes everything. It softens your reactions. It steadies your heart. It opens your eyes to possibilities that control would have kept hidden. For when you are not clinging to one specific outcome, you become more receptive to the many ways life can unfold. Ways that may be richer, deeper, and more aligned than anything you could have planned. But let us be honest. There will be moments when surrender feels like loss. Moments when letting go feels like giving up something precious. A dream, perhaps? A relationship? A vision of how things were supposed to be. And in those moments, it is natural to grieve what you are releasing. Surrender does not ask you to deny your feelings. It does not require you to pretend that loss does not hurt. It simply asks you to trust that what you are releasing is not greater than what you are making space for. Because every open hand is also a receiving hand. When you let go of what you cannot control, you create room for what is meant to come. You make space for new opportunities, new directions, new blessings that could not have entered your life while your hands were tightly closed around something else. Surrender is not the end of your story. It is the turning of the page. It is the quiet acknowledgement that there is more ahead than what you are leaving behind. That your journey is not defined by what did not happen, but by what is still unfolding. That your life is guided by something deeper than your own understanding, something that sees beyond the present moment into a future filled with possibility. And so you learn slowly, gently, sometimes reluctantly to release. You release the need to have all the answers. You release the pressure to make everything perfect. You release the belief that you must control every detail in order for things to turn out well. And in that release, you find something unexpected. Freedom. Freedom to live more fully in the present moment. Freedom to experience life as it comes, without the constant filter of expectation. Freedom to trust trust that you are being guided even when the path is unclear. This freedom does not come all at once. It unfolds over time, with each act of surrender, with each moment you choose trust over control. It grows as you begin to see that life continues to move forward, that things continue to work themselves out, that you are not undone by letting go. In fact, you are strengthened by it. For there is a quiet strength in surrender, a strength that does not shout or demand attention, but stands steady and unshaken. It is the strength of knowing that you do not have to force your way through life, that you do not have to carry every burden alone, that you can rest in the assurance that you are supported in ways you cannot always see. So this morning, as you stand at the threshold of a new day, consider what you are holding too tightly. Consider the worries that keep your mind restless, the expectations that weigh on your heart, the outcomes you are trying so hard to control. And then, gently, with intention, begin to loosen your grip. You do not have to release everything at once. Start with one thing, one worry, one fear, one expectation. Place it quietly and faithfully into the hands of something greater than yourself. And trust that in doing so, you are not losing control, but gaining peace. For life was never meant to be controlled in its entirety. It was meant to be lived. And when you surrender control, you step more fully into that life, open, receptive, and guided by a grace that knows the way even when you do not. There comes a time in every life when the doors begin to appear. Some arrive quietly, almost unnoticed at first. An idea that stirs something within you, a conversation that lingers longer than expected, a chance that seems small but carries a certain weight. Others come boldly, swinging wide with promise and possibility, dazzling you with their brightness, inviting you to step forward quickly before the moment passes. And in those moments, you may feel a stirring, a mixture of excitement and uncertainty, hope and hesitation. For opportunity, as beautiful as it may seem, is not always simple. It does not always come labeled with certainty, nor does it always reveal its true nature at first glance. And so you are faced with a question that is both delicate and profound. Which door is meant for me? It is here that discernment becomes your quiet guide. Discernment is not loud. It does not rush. It does not push you into hurried decisions or reckless leaps. Instead, it invites you to pause, to listen, to feel, to reflect. It asks you to look beyond the surface of what is being offered and to consider not just what is possible, but what is aligned. For not every open door is a doorway to your purpose. Some doors are distractions, dressed in the clothing of opportunity. Some lead to places that may look promising at first, but pull you away from the path you are meant to walk. And others, though good in their own right, are simply not meant for you. Not in this season, not in this way, and there is no shame in that. But without discernment, it is easy to mistake movement for progress, to believe that saying yes to every opportunity is the same as moving forward. We are taught to seize the moment, to take chances, to avoid letting anything slip through our fingers. And while there is wisdom in being open, there is also wisdom in being selective. Because every yes carries a cost of time, a cost of energy, a cost of attention. And when you say yes to what is not aligned, you may find yourself with little left to give to what truly matters. Discernment teaches you to weigh that cost. It teaches you to ask deeper questions. Not just, is this good, but is this good for me? Not just, can I do this, but should I do this? Not just, will this bring success, but will this bring peace? For there is a difference between what looks right and what feels right. And your spirit knows the difference even when your mind is still trying to catch up. There is a quiet knowing within you, a gentle voice that does not shout, but speaks with steady clarity. It may not always be easy to hear, especially in a world filled with noise and urgency, but it is there, and when you learn to listen to it, to trust it, it becomes one of your greatest guides. Discernment is in many ways an act of listening. Listening not only to what is being offered, but to what is being stirred within you, listening to the subtle sense of peace or unease that accompanies a decision, listening to the wisdom you have gained from your past, the lessons you have learned through through both success and failure. For you have lived enough life to know that not everything that glitters is gold. You have seen how some opportunities, though promising, have led to exhaustion rather than fulfillment. You have felt the weight of commitments that did not align with your true self, the quiet strain of trying to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. And yet you have also known the joy of right alignment, the ease of stepping into something that feels natural, that resonates deeply, that seems to unfold with a sense of grace. You have experienced moments when the door you walked through did not just open, it welcomed you. Those moments are not accidents. They are the result of alignment, and discernment is what helps you find them again. But let us not pretend that discernment is always easy. There will be times when the right choice is not the obvious one. Times when the door that aligns with your purpose does not look as impressive, as secure, or as immediately rewarding as another. Times when you must choose between what is comfortable and what is calling you forward. And in those moments, fear may try to speak. Fear may urge you to choose safety over growth, familiarity over possibility. It may convince you that the smaller door is not worth taking, that the uncertain path is too risky, that you should cling to what you know rather than step into what you do not. But discernment does not bow to fear. It listens beyond it. It recognizes that the right path is not always the easiest nor the most celebrated. It understands that true alignment often requires courage, the courage to walk away from what is not meant for you, even when it is good, even when it is appealing, even when others do not understand your choice. Not every opportunity is your assignment. And part of honoring your purpose is learning to decline what does not serve it. There is a quiet power in that kind of refusal, a strength that does not need to justify itself, that does not seek approval or validation. It simply knows that your time is sacred, your energy is valuable, your path is unique. And because of that, you cannot afford to scatter yourself in every direction. You must choose. And choosing requires clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you value, and where you are being led. It requires you to be honest with yourself, to look beyond external expectations and listen to your inner truth. It asks you to trust that what is meant for you will not require you to betray yourself in order to receive it. Because the right opportunities will not demand that you shrink. They will not ask you to compromise your integrity, to silence your voice, or to become someone you are not. Instead, they will invite you to expand, to grow into a fuller version of yourself, to use your gifts in meaningful ways, to step into spaces where you are both challenged and supported. And when you encounter such an opportunity, you will know, not always with certainty, not always without hesitation, but with a quiet sense of rightness that settles in your spirit, a feeling that even if the path ahead is uncertain, it is worth walking. That is the mark of alignment. And alignment, when honored, leads to a deeper sense of fulfillment than any surface-level success ever could. So as you move through your days, as opportunities come and go, do not be in a hurry to grasp at every door that opens. Take your time, pause, reflect. Ask yourself what this opportunity is asking of you, and whether it is something you are willing and meant to give. Consider not just the immediate reward, but the long-term impact. Think about where this path might lead, and whether that destination resonates with the life you are trying to build. And most importantly, listen. Listen to the quiet voice within you that knows more than you realize. Trust that voice, even when it leads you away from what others might choose, even when it asks you to wait, even when it calls you to step into the unknown. For discernment is not about having all the answers. It is about trusting the guidance you have been given. And that guidance, when honored, will lead you to the doors that are truly meant for you. Doors that do not just open, but invite you in. Doors that do not just offer opportunity, but offer alignment. Doors that do not just change your circumstances, but transform your life. And when you walk through those doors, you will not have to wonder if you belong. You will know there is a peculiar kind of silence that follows a closed door. It is not the loud, echoing silence of an empty room, but a quieter one, a stillness that settles into the heart when something hoped for does not come to pass. It is the pause between expectation and reality, the moment when what you imagined meets what is, and the two do not align. A door closes, and for a while you stand there, hands still lifted from the knock, eyes fixed on what will not open. You replay the steps that brought you there, wondering if you knocked too softly or too late, or perhaps not in the right way at all. You question your timing, your effort, your worth. You ask yourself if you were enough to be welcomed, enough to be chosen, enough to be let in. And in that questioning, there can be a quiet ache, because closed doors do not always come gently. Sometimes they shut with finality, leaving no space for explanation, no clear reason to hold on to. They can feel personal even when they are not. They can feel like rejection even when they are protection. And that is the truth we often struggle to see. For we are taught to celebrate open doors, to chase them, to walk through them with confidence, to see them as signs of success and favor. But we are rarely taught how to receive a closed door. We are rarely shown how to stand in that moment with grace, how to accept what has not happened without allowing it to diminish what still can. And yet, acceptance is where your freedom begins. Not the kind of acceptance that comes from defeat, that whispers, "This is all there is," but the kind that rises from wisdom, that says, "This is not mine and I will not force it to be." There is strength in that. A quiet, steady strength that does not demand answers, that does not insist on understanding everything before moving forward. It is the strength to release your grip on what you cannot change, to loosen your hold on what was never meant to stay. But acceptance does not come without feeling. It does not ask you to pretend that the closed door does not matter. It does not require you to silence your disappointment or bury your grief, for there is a natural sorrow in letting go of what you had hoped for. A dream, a plan, a possibility that once felt so certain, and that sorrow deserves to be acknowledged. It deserves space. It deserves compassion. You are allowed to feel the weight of what did not happen. You are allowed to mourn the path you thought you would walk. You are allowed to sit for a moment in the quiet of that closed door and let your heart catch up with what your mind is beginning to understand. But do not stay there too long, for beyond that door, beyond what did not open, there is still a life waiting for you. Acceptance is what allows you to turn, to shift your gaze from what is closed to what is still possible, to lift your eyes from the ground of disappointment and begin to look again with fresh perspective, with renewed openness, with a heart that is learning, slowly and surely, to trust. Because not every closed door is a loss. Some are redirections. Some are protections. Some are quiet acts of grace, keeping you from stepping into spaces that would have diminished you, drained you, or led you away from the path you are meant to follow. But we do not always see that in the moment. In the moment, we see only the door. We see only the no. We see only what we are being denied. It is only later, sometimes much later, that we begin to understand, that we look back and realize that what did not open was never meant to hold us. That what felt like rejection was in truth a form of preservation. There are places you wanted to go that would have broken you. There are opportunities you longed for that would have cost you more than they gave. There are doors you knocked on that, had they opened, would have led you away from yourself. And so they remain closed. Not because you are unworthy, but because you were being guided. There is a kind of love in that guidance. A love that does not always feel gentle, but is always intentional. A love that sees beyond your present desire into your future well-being. A love that understands what you cannot yet comprehend, that knows what you are not yet ready to know. And that love, though it may be unseen, is at work in every closed door. Acceptance is how you begin to trust that. It is how you release the need to understand everything immediately. It is how you make peace with the unanswered questions, the unfinished sentences, the paths that ended before they began. It is how you honor your journey, even when it takes turns you did not expect. For your journey is not defined by the doors that close. It is shaped by how you respond to them. You can resist, holding on to what is no longer available, exhausting yourself in the effort to reopen what has been shut. Or you can release, allowing yourself to move forward with grace, carrying the lessons but not the weight. And in that release, something shifts. You begin to feel lighter, not because everything is resolved, not because you suddenly understand it all, but because you are no longer fighting against what is. You are no longer measuring your worth by doors that did not open. You are no longer standing still, waiting for something that is not coming. You are moving, and movement, however small, however slow, is a sign of life. It is a declaration that you are not defined by disappointment, that you are not confined to a single outcome, that your story is still unfolding. It is an act of faith, a quiet belief that there is more ahead, even if you cannot yet see its shape. And there is more. There are doors you have not yet noticed, doors that are waiting, not closed, not locked, but simply unseen. Opportunities that align more closely with who you are becoming. Paths that will stretch you in the right ways. Spaces where you will not have to prove your worth, but simply live in it. But you cannot see those doors if your eyes remain fixed on the ones that closed. Acceptance lifts your gaze. It opens your awareness. It allows you to recognize that life is not limited to a single opportunity, a single path, a single moment. It reminds you that what is meant for you will not require you to beg, to chase, or to break yourself in order to receive it. What is meant for you will meet you in time, in alignment, in ways that feel not just possible, but right. So when a door closes, do not rush to label it as failure. Do not let it convince you that you are less, that you are lacking, that you have somehow fallen short. Instead, pause, breathe, allow yourself to feel, but also allow yourself to trust. Trust that this is not the end. Trust that there is meaning in what you cannot yet explain. Trust that you are being led, not away from something good, but towards something better suited for your journey. And then gently, with courage and grace, take a step forward, not toward the door that has closed, but toward the life that is still calling you. There is a rhythm to a life that is in alignment, a quiet, steady cadence that does not rush to impress the world, yet moves with a certainty that cannot be easily shaken. It is not loud, not boastful, not desperate for recognition. Instead, it carries a deep and abiding sense of rightness, as though each step, though sometimes small and uncertain, is placed exactly where it is meant to be. To walk in alignment is to walk in truth, not the truth that is shaped by the expectations of others, nor the truth that bends itself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you, but the truth that rises from within you, unapologetic, unforced, and deeply rooted in who you are. And yet, this kind of walking is not always easy, for we live in a world that is filled with noise, voices that tell us who we should be, what we should want, how we should measure our worth. These voices are persistent. They speak through comparison, through pressure, through the quiet suggestion that we are somehow behind, somehow lacking, somehow not enough unless we become something other than ourselves. And if we are not careful, we begin to listen. We begin to adjust our steps, to change our direction, to chase paths that look successful from the outside but feel empty on the inside. We find ourselves moving, yes, but not moving with purpose, not moving with peace. And that is the cost of misalignment. It is not always visible to others, but it is felt deeply within. It is the exhaustion that comes from trying to live a life that does not fit. It is the quiet unease that lingers, even in moments that are supposed to bring joy. It is the sense that something is off, though you cannot always name what it is. But alignment restores. It brings you back to yourself. It invites you to pause, to listen, to remember who you are beneath the layers of expectation and fear. It asks you to consider not what the world applauds, but what your spirit affirms, not what is popular, but what is purposeful, not what looks good, but what feels right. And this remembering is powerful, because when you begin to walk in alignment, something shifts within you. The noise begins to fade, not because it has disappeared, but because it no longer holds the same authority. You become less concerned with how your path compares to others, and more committed committed to honoring your own. You begin to understand that your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. It is uniquely yours, shaped by your experiences, your gifts, your calling. And because of that, it requires your attention, your care, your willingness to walk it fully, even when it does not make sense to others, even when it does not follow the expected pattern. Walking in alignment means choosing authenticity over approval. It means allowing yourself to be seen as you are, rather than as you think you must be. It means speaking your truth even when your voice trembles. It means making decisions that reflect your values, even when they are not the easiest or most popular choices. And yes, there will be moments when this feels lonely. Moments when you look around and see others moving in different directions, achieving things that the world celebrates. And you may wonder if you have chosen the right path. You may question whether your slower, quieter journey is enough. But alignment is not measured by speed. It is measured by peace, a deep, steady peace that settles in your spirit when you know you are living in a way that honors who you are and what you are meant to do. It is the kind of peace that does not depend on external validation, that does not rise and fall with circumstances, that remains even when the road is difficult. And that peace is a powerful guide. It tells you when something is right, even if it is hard. It warns you when something is wrong, even if it looks appealing. It anchors you in moments of uncertainty, reminding you that as long as you are aligned, you are not lost. But walking in alignment also requires courage. The courage to say no when something does not fit, even if it is a good opportunity. The courage to walk away from spaces that no longer serve you, even if they once did. The courage to trust your inner knowing, even when it leads you into unfamiliar territory. For alignment will not always lead you where it is comfortable. Sometimes it will call you to grow, to stretch beyond what you have known, to step into roles and responsibilities that challenge you, to embrace parts of yourself that you have not yet fully explored. And in those moments it may feel easier to retreat, to return to what is familiar, to choose comfort over growth. But growth is where alignment deepens. It is where you begin to live more fully into your purpose, to use your gifts in ways that not only benefit you but also touch the lives of others. For alignment is not just about personal fulfillment, it is also about contribution. It is about recognizing that your life has meaning beyond yourself, that your presence, your voice, your actions have the power to influence, to uplift, to inspire. And when you walk in alignment, you do so not only for your own sake, but for the sake of those whose lives will be touched by your authenticity. There is a ripple effect to a life lived in alignment. When you are true to yourself, you give others permission to do the same. When you walk with integrity, you create space for honesty. When you move with purpose, you remind others that their lives too have meaning, and that is no small thing. But let us not pretend that alignment means everything will fall perfectly into place. There will still be challenges. There will still be moments of doubt, times when the path is unclear, when the outcome is uncertain. But the difference is this. When you are aligned, you face those challenges with a different kind of strength, a grounded strength, a quiet confidence that does not come from knowing exactly what will happen, but from knowing that you are where you are meant to be, that even in difficulty you are not out of place, that even in struggle you are not off course. And that knowing carries you. It steadies your steps when the ground feels uneven. It gives you the courage to continue when the road is long. It reminds you that alignment is not about perfection. It is about direction, about continually returning to yourself, about checking in, adjusting, realigning when necessary. For there will be times when you drift, when you lose your sense of center, when the noise of the world becomes too loud, and you find yourself moving in ways that do not feel true. And that is part of the journey. Alignment is not a fixed state. It is a practice, a daily, moment-by-moment choice to listen, to reflect, to return, a willingness to acknowledge when something feels off, and to make the necessary changes even when they are difficult. It is the humility to admit that you have strayed and the courage to find your way back. And each time you do, you grow stronger, more aware, more attuned to the quiet voice within you that knows the way. So as you walk into this day, and the days that follow, consider not just where you are going, but how you are going. Are your steps guided by fear or by truth? Are your decisions shaped by pressure or by purpose? Are you moving in a way that honors who you are? Or are you trying to become someone you think you should be? These are the questions that lead you back to alignment. And when you find that alignment, when your actions, your values, and your purpose begin to move in harmony, you will feel it, not as a loud declaration, but as a quiet certainty. A sense that even if the road is long, even if the destination is not yet visible, you are on the right path. And that, dear soul, is enough.